feel like a horrible person. I kind of cheated on my husband after we got our first baby. I've never felt so scared of losing anything in my life. I'm afraid my fiancé will leave me and it is all my fault. It was an accident, I can swear it was, but I know how stupid that sounds. I need advice on what to do before I make the wrong move and lose it all. My fiancé, M30, and I, F28, welcomed our baby girl 5 months ago. It was the happiest moment of our lives, and my fiancé's love for me grew even more. Everything is perfect, but I am scared my poor decisions will take it all away from me. I met my fiancé almost 10 years ago at my 18th birthday party. My parents were extremely strict and they never allowed me to go to parties or even throw parties. I lived a very normal life with my parents and my 2 sisters. Ever since I was a little girl, I counted the days to my 18th birthday because I knew turning 18 would give me a little bit of freedom. I had a friend named Anna. She was an only child, so she grew up with a lot of freedom. Anna promised to throw me a birthday party in her house. After a lot of persuasion, my parents gave me permission to go, but on the condition that I took my older sister with me. Anna dressed me up and even lent me her best dress. The party was nothing like I'd ever seen before, but something else caught my eye. My fiancé, Chris, was the center of attention at my own birthday party. I found him extremely confident and attractive, and so did everyone else. I was too shy to say hi to him, but Anna wasn't. After speaking to Chris, Anna told me she had a crush on him. I was surprised because my friend was never one to crush on a guy first. Chris was charming and snobbish at the same time, and these were qualities Anna was drawn to. 2 weeks after my party, I ran into Chris at the grocery store. He recognized me as the birthday girl, and from there we started talking. I was extremely shy at first because I had no experience with boys, but Chris was warm and friendly, so it was much easier. Soon enough, Anna, Chris, and I became a trio. We did almost everything together. I knew I liked Chris, but I brushed it off because Anna already confessed her feelings for him to me. 1 year later, Chris and Anna started dating, and I decided to give them space because I did not want to be a third wheel. Chris and Anna dated for 1 more year, but something happened. Anna told me she got drunk at a party and cheated on Chris. I kept her secret from him, but Anna cheated on him many times after that. One day, Chris found out and they broke up. Anna blamed me for their breakup and accused me of telling him. I told her that wasn't true, but it fell on deaf ears. That was the end of our friendship. Anna moved out of town with her parents, and Chris went to New York to study law. I also got into college soon after that. 4 years later, I graduated from college and moved to New York for work. Coincidentally, I ran into Chris when he came to the boutique I worked in for shopping. I was really shocked to see him, and I could tell he was surprised too. We spent hours catching up and talking about life. It felt like I was in a dream. I could not believe that I ran into my old-time crush. I discovered that Chris was now a lawyer in a very successful firm, name withheld for personal reasons. He was earning 6 figures every month, and he was quite popular. Chris was from a rich family, and his parents were well-known people. I worked as a fashion designer in a luxury boutique, name withheld, and Chris would always find time to come see me. Months flew by, and soon Chris and I were good friends again. After 1 year of flirting, Chris asked me out, and it was an instant yes. Our relationship became pretty serious, and we could not spend a day apart. I was the envy of his female colleagues because Chris never hesitated to bring me to his workplace. Life was good, and I was living the life I always wanted. A few months later, on my birthday, Chris gave me the sum of $500K as my birthday gift. I was so grateful because it was more than enough money for me to start my own boutique. 1 year later, my boutique was already running, and I had enough money to build 5 more. Chris was also promoted, and we earned more than enough money to take care of ourselves. Chris proposed to me a few weeks after his promotion, and I said yes instantly. I was so excited that I did not resist posting it on my Instagram account. Chris bought a house months later and asked me to move in. My parents wanted us to get married first, but I talked them out of it. I wanted the perfect wedding with Chris, so I did not want to rush it. I already met Chris's parents by that time, and they were nice. They were also against us moving in together without getting married first. Chris told me his family was a very traditional family. Just like my family, they were strict. After a lot of persuasion, his parents did not have a problem with us moving in together. Life with Chris was great, and I fell in love with him every single day. He was caring, generous, and extremely loving. He treated me like I was the only woman in the world. Anytime we had disagreements, Chris would never raise his voice or try to snap at me. He was always calm and ready to listen to me first. Chris took care of me when I was sick and would miss work for me sometimes. I cherished every moment with him like it was the last because I never believed I deserved him. Some months later, we decided to have a baby. After weeks of trying, I got pregnant. Chris was overjoyed, and I could see the excitement in his eyes when I broke the news to him. He did not let me do anything after that. I had a stress-free pregnancy, and it was beautiful. When I gave birth to my daughter, Chris's love for me multiplied. I was insecure about my postpartum body, but it was never a problem for Chris. He took it upon himself to work out with me and get my confidence back. Our daughter was like the icing on the cake because we already had a happy life. She multiplied it for us. I posted a series of pictures and videos of myself with Chris and our daughter in a joint Instagram post with Chris. That was the beginning of my problems. I had just 1,000 followers on Instagram. When I made those posts, I didn't expect it to get as much engagement as it did. Chris was quite popular, but I did not think people would take an interest in his personal life. If only I did not make those posts, I'd not be in this predicament. 3 months after our daughter was born, Chris went on a work trip to Italy. He was not going to be back for 3 weeks. Parting with him for that long was hard for me, but I had no choice. He had to go to work. He already took weeks off work after I gave birth to our daughter. The first week without Chris was depressing and boring. I tried to focus on work and our daughter, but none of it seemed to excite me. I knew it was going to be difficult, but I never expected it to be as depressing as it was. Chris had spoiled me with his presence so much that I was too used to it. Before the work trip, the longest we had stayed apart was 3 days. Chris called me every day, but it was just not enough. I missed and craved everything about him. It was just the first week, and it was already feeling like a month. One day, my personal assistant noticed my mood and invited me to a party. I was not used to partying, but she promised it would be a good distraction. I spoke to Chris about it, and he encouraged me to go. He did not like the way I looked tired when he video called me. I dropped our daughter off at his mom's house before going to the party that night. I wore a black knee-length gown that was not too revealing. I was not looking for a partner. I already had one I was extremely proud of. I took just one drink at the party because I did not want to get drunk. After 2 hours, I was ready to get home and snuggle with my daughter. On my way out, I met a guy named Roy who was just as tall as Chris. He looked so much like my fiancé that I had to do a double take. The only difference was the eyes and face. Chris was also more muscular than him. To my surprise, Roy asked me if I wanted a drink. I politely declined, but then he insisted. I did not like the idea of a stranger buying me a drink, so I tried walking away, but Roy said something that made me stop. He told me he was Chris's friend, and Chris asked him to keep me company. I found it weird because Chris had never introduced Roy to me before, but Roy said he was not based in New York. He went as far as telling me some things about Chris. I believed him because Chris was not one to speak to just anyone unless he knew them well. Roy bought me a drink, and I made the mistake of drinking it. After another drink, I was dizzy and I had a headache. I told Roy I wanted to go home, and he offered to take me home. I dozed off in the car and only woke up when Roy tapped me. He told me I was home already. He guided me out of the car, but I noticed that we were somewhere else. I asked Roy where we were at, and he told me his car was faulty and he could not drive it further. I told him I would rather take a cab home and get to my daughter, but Roy said it was already too late for a cab. I thought about it for a while and gave in because I was feeling quite tired and weak. Roy guided me into what I later discovered was his house. I asked him for painkillers for my headache, but he gave me hot milk to drink. That relieved me a little. Roy showed me the room I would be sleeping in, and I thanked him before closing the door. I felt comfortable because I believed he was Chris's friend. I tried calling Chris, but I discovered that my phone was dead. I wanted to take a shower, but had no clothes to change into, so I just laid on the bed and tried to get some sleep. Sometime into the night, Roy knocked on the door. I opened the door and found him standing there in just a towel. He was completely shirtless and his hair was wet. For some reason, he styled his hair just like Chris did. He already had an uncanny resemblance to Chris, but now it seemed more defined. I asked Roy what he was looking for, and he told me he just wanted to grab his shirt. After grabbing his shirt, he asked me why I had not taken a shower, and I told him I did not have clothes to change into. To my surprise, he offered me his shirt and insisted I wore it. I still felt a little bit dizzy, so I decided to take a hot bath. While I was in the bath, Roy walked in completely naked. I was too stunned to say a word and too tired to move. He just quietly stood there and watched me for a long time. I snapped out of my trance and told him to get out. I kept thinking about Chris and how he would feel if he knew that I saw his friend naked. Roy ignored me, then proceeded to touch himself. He was masturbating in front of me. Imagine how confused I was at that sight. I was drunk, and seeing him do that felt wrong and exciting at the same time. It did not help that I had been sexually starved for over 3 weeks. Chris was extremely busy for 2 weeks before his trip. The temptation was too much, and then I found myself touching myself. It was wrong. I should not have done it, but I could not stop once I started. The worst part was that Roy and Chris looked almost similar. Soon enough, I thought I was looking at my husband touching himself, and then things escalated. Roy got into the tub with me and we had sex. The next morning, after I woke up with a stranger in bed with me, I knew I had made the biggest mistake of my life. My head felt like it was being stabbed with a knife. It was not just a hangover. I found out that Roy had spiked my drink with some sort of cannabis. The most shocking part is that Roy confessed that he was hired by someone to get me to cheat on my husband. He said his job was done and he left me in the house. I had consented. I knew I had consented because I still remember it all. Yes, he left me. That man drugged me, then ran away. I cheated on my husband. I thought I was having sex with my husband because the drug made the similarities between them more defined. I went back home and I felt like a cheat. I could not even look at my daughter because I felt so much guilt. Chris treated me like a queen and I broke his trust. I should not have gone to the party at all. I didn't even have time to think about who hired Roy. I was too depressed to think about myself. It's been a week since I cheated on my husband and a week till he'll be back home. I don't know what to do. I've ignored all his calls because I don't have the courage to hear his voice. I don't even know how I'll face him in a week's time. People of Reddit, I need your advice urgently. It was an accident, but I still cheated. Should I tell him the truth or lie? I cannot live with myself. The guilt is tormenting me. Please tell me what to do. I'm helpless. Update. Hi everyone, it's been 5 months and I wanted to tell you all how it's going. Some of you in the comments called me a fool. I deserve it. Immediately Chris got back. I told him the truth like most of you suggested. I don't think I had ever seen such disappointment and hurt in his eyes. He stared at me for a long time without saying a word. It felt like I had lost all his respect. After some time, he quietly went to his study and locked the door for hours. It was the most tormenting period of my life. I cried out my eyes, but I never knocked on the door. That would have been very selfish of me. He had every right to be angry, so I let him be. I was ready to accept whatever step he wanted to take. Even if he wanted to leave me, I would not hate him. I brought shame upon myself. I was gullible. 2 days after that, Chris forwarded a message to me. In the message, someone sent Chris pictures of me leaving the party with Roy. The person also told Chris what happened. Chris was a lawyer, so he talked to his friends and they traced the message to Anna. Yes, Anna. Anna hired Roy because she wanted to ruin our relationship. I was so angry that I searched for Roy with the help of Chris, and then he led us to Anna when we threatened to take him to the authorities. When we finally met Anna and demanded answers, she accused me of taking Chris away from her. She felt like I told Chris she cheated years back, so she wanted to pay me back by setting me up. Roy had switched off my phone and Anna was the one who told him personal things about Chris, so I would believe him. Apparently, she had seen all my Instagram posts with Chris and got jealous. There was nothing I could do because I had fallen into her trap. I got home that day feeling defeated, but what was more shocking was that Chris asked for a break. He moved out of the house and we did not speak for 2 months. I lived a miserable life in those 2 months, but my daughter made it better. After 2 months, Chris finally forgave me and he told me he loved me so much he could not lose me. I was shocked, happy, and grateful because I never thought he'd come back. We got married 2 months later with our daughter as the little bride. She could hardly walk, lol. My life is back to being beautiful and I have my husband by my side. I hope my story inspires someone and makes them more self-aware. I was lucky to have a husband that was ready to forgive me. Thank you to everyone that commented and advised me to tell my husband the truth. I don't know what would have happened if I didn't.
Nothing is ever as it seems, and I think I'm the perfect definition of that. I don't even think there'll be a single person in my comment section who's going to be on my side. I'm doing something that I know no one will support, but I just can't stop. I've come this far to get something, and I don't want to lose the opportunity to have it. Maybe I'm the perfect definition of what people call a gold digger, and I think I'll not stop being one anytime soon. I'm desperate, and that's what made me get married to my husband in the first place. My name is Michelle, and I'm a 31-year-old woman who works at a fashion store. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I only moved here after getting married to my husband. I am married to Simon, a 40-year-old realtor agent, and we have been married for approximately 2 years now. I come from a very poor background, and I have struggled to feed my whole life. Nothing ever came to me without paying a price, and that's how I landed a realtor agent as a husband. I sound like a fool, and to be honest, I think I am one. But if being a fool would make me survive in this cruel world, there's nothing I'll not do to survive. I didn't just meet Simon and get married to him. I literally had to pay a price to be with him. It's like the same situation with how I've struggled in life. It's a trade by batter situation. I'm not claiming to be a good person because I know that I am far from it. I am an opportunist who has tried her best to climb her way up. There's nothing good and innocent about me. When I first met Simon, he had a girlfriend. I just met him because he came to the town where I used to live with some of his friends on a camping trip. I know one of the people who works close to the place they visited to camp, so it was very easy for me to meet him. I didn't attend college by then. I was supposed to have finished college, but I was still a high school graduate who worked several jobs to earn. When I heard that a group of rich guys were visiting, I decided to grab the opportunity. What better way to get rich than marry rich? I didn't even pay attention to Simon at first because he was the least attractive of all the guys present. He had a dorky look with unkempt beards. He is also the oldest of the group, so I never wanted to go for him. One of his friends looked quite attractive, so I decided to go after him. I started visiting the camping site almost every day, but none of them seemed to notice me. I also discovered that they were all married except Simon. I wasn't surprised because he wasn't someone I'd go for on a regular day, but I was desperate and decided to make a move. Long story short, I was able to befriend him and get his phone number. Unfortunately, they went back to LA almost 1 week later. I still had his phone number, but I was no longer interested till I was told that he is a realtor agent. That made me more determined, and I started calling him every day. I still have a lot to say, so I'll cut the story short. He hooked a flight for me after 2 months of talking online, and then I visited him in Los Angeles. We started dating for a while, and then I introduced him to my brothers after he followed me back to my town. Like I said, he's 40 years old and seemed desperate to get married. After just 6 months of dating, he proposed after meeting my whole family. I agreed on the condition that he found me a job in New York. He agreed and also gave me a condition before we had any children. He said we could only have children after we lasted 4 years of marriage. I didn't get why he wanted that, but I agreed because, like I said, I was desperate. One weird thing Simon did before we got married is that he made sure I took several tests to determine my blood group, genotype, and other medical terminologies I cannot seem to call. I know it's normal to test with each other, but his tests were extreme. But, like I said, I had no choice than to marry the old man. I'm not even sure he's 40. Maybe he's lying about his age. He looks 50. After getting married to Simon, I realized that the grass is not really greener on the other side. He'd met my whole family and had his opinions about all of them before marrying me. But I only met his sisters and uncles at the wedding. I didn't see his parents. I asked why, and he just told me that I shouldn't worry about it. Well, I realized that Simon and his parents are not on good terms, and all the aggression seemed to be thrown on me. 2 years ago, I was just a 29-year-old woman who just wanted to settle down. I wasn't ready for the burden of a family rivalry, but I had no choice because I was practically thrown into it. How would I describe Simon as a husband? Terrible. He has to be the worst husband any woman should want. That man is very selfish and self-centered. When I married him, I thought I'd be able to get a life of comfort and luxury. But I'm not getting any of that. He has the money, but he just chooses not to spend it. The only thing he has done for me since we got married is find me the job I asked for. I began to get extremely desperate because I just had limited resources. I realized that he just married me, so his parents would stop taunting him with his single life. I also wondered why he didn't marry some of his colleagues, but I've realized that it's because he wanted a girl like me who would agree to do anything just because of his title, a realtor agent. Like I said, I didn't graduate from college. In fact, I never even went to college. Simon is aware of that because I told him a miserable life story in the hopes that it would make him have compassion for me and marry me faster. Well, he did marry me, but not out of compassion. He married me because he wanted an uneducated wife like me that could sign her rights for money. Simon is out there living his life and traveling because he is in, quote, a realtor agent. We hardly sleep together because he wants to make sure I don't get pregnant. I used to wonder why he didn't like the idea of me getting pregnant, but I recently realized that it's because he doesn't want me to have a child with him now and then divorce him before asking for child support and spousal support. That's why he made it clear that I must not get pregnant till we lasted 4 years of marriage. He wants to stay married to Simon for 4 years? Me? I'm not ready to stay married to that man for 4 good years. I know he might divorce me after 4 years. His parents are another thorn in my flesh. They keep asking me why I don't have a college degree and why I'm not pregnant yet. Sometimes his mother even asks me if her son hired me to be his wife. Let's get back to my so-called husband, Simon. That man has played with my intelligence, and I know it. The job he got for me is all I have. He doesn't listen to me when I ask for money. He just gives me a couple of dollars, and then that's all. Nothing else. So much for marrying a realtor agent. What's the difference? I got tired, and I knew that I had to do something fast. I told myself that there was nowhere in this life or next that I will let myself stay married to Simon for 4 years without having anything to show for it. There are more good-looking men out there, and I could have gotten married to them. But I chose him for a reason, and that's why I refused to take a back seat. I might not be a college graduate, but I believe that my instincts and intuition would take me far. Simon never ceases an opportunity to tell me how I would have never gotten a job if he didn't make his friend hire me without a college degree. I'm ready to show that man that I'll do something so great that even a multiple degree holder like him would never beat me. Update. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen so much hate in a comment section like I'm seeing in mine. What did I do wrong? I'm an opportunist, and I didn't deny that. I also didn't come here and pretend like I was a saint that fell from the sky. I know I'm wrong in certain things, but so is Simon. He's also an opportunist and a very greedy one at that. Why else would he get married to a high school graduate and then tell her he doesn't want children? We're both in the wrong boat together. The only difference is that I'm the one at the receiving end of it. Thankfully, few people supported my ideology, even though they didn't agree to some of the things I said. It's all fine, and I believe that one way or another, I'll be able to get to the finish line without support. If I want to get out of the marriage with something substantial, having a child is important, but so far, Simon has not wavered in his decision to not have children yet. I know he cheats on me because he is hardly ever home, and when it's time for us to get together, he uses protection a lot. He also gives me the pills immediately. I'm tired of the same routine, and I don't want him to outsmart me. I'm ready to have a child, and even though it's not going to be for Simon, so be it. That was the decision I made before I realized that there was every possibility that Simon would find out I had a child for another man. He's smart, and I know there's no way he'd not try to get a DNA test as soon as the child is born. I just decided to have fun and see where that takes me. I was tired of sitting around the house only to be disturbed by his parents and interviewed on every single topic while he lives his life under the pretext of work. I don't care if he's actually working. I'm tired of working once in a while and doing things continuously in a boring routine. I'm going to start pretending like I'm no longer a married woman because I need to have options left for when Simon suddenly wakes up and decides to divorce me. I don't want to go back to a life of striving. I've asked Simon to put me into college, but he's not ready to do that. He keeps coming up with several stupid excuses, and I am just tired. Nobody has time for that, and I'm certainly not going to trust a selfish man like him with my life. There's no way that's going to be possible. Update. Hi guys, it's time for an update, lol. I almost feel like I'm running a reality TV show because of how much information about my life that I'm putting out here. I guess I can't fault myself for asking advice and seeking the opinion of other people. Trust me when I say this, except a person was drunk or drugged, cheating is a conscious decision, and it's something that's usually planned for months before its actual action. How do I know this? Well, I'm currently using myself as the test subject in this case, and I now understand a lot of things. I want to cheat on my husband. It's intentional, and I want to do it because Simon is one of the people who is making my life very difficult now. That man has tried his best to tie me down. I don't want to live that kind of life. I thought he'd put me into college the moment I accepted to marry him. I also want to go to school and be educated. If he is not ready to do that for me, shouldn't I look elsewhere? He married me with ulterior motives, just like I married him with ulterior motives. The both of us are to blame, but I don't think he even knows that yet. Just yesterday, he came back from work and he looked very tired. Like the dutiful wife Jay was forced to become, I prepared something for him to eat. Because most of the people in the comments section tried their best to make me look like a bad person, I decided that it would be nice if I tested Simon one more time. Deep down, I knew nothing would change, but I was easy to try, just because I wanted to prove you all wrong. Long story short, I asked him about enrolling me in college all over again. I know that he had the money, and I can bet a lot of things that he doesn't need to break his bank to send me to college. Why then did he want to limit the amount of things he gave me? Well, I realized that his reason for doing that is because he doesn't want to give me enough things so that I would not end up running away. Maybe he is aware that I might end up leaving him at the end of the day, so he is trying to make sure that he doesn't spend too much or risk too much. I'm sure that the both of us are playing a very risky game, and I just hope that neither of us is ready to back down. After talking to him and getting disappointed yesterday, I decided to make the conscious decision to just go straight to the point and do what I've always wanted to do. There's a person at my workplace that's trying to flirt with me, but I've never given that person a second look. One of my reasons for doing that is because that person is also my colleague at work. Why would I want to date my colleague? We earn the same thing and both of us are trying to survive. Why would I want to risk everything by dating someone like that? I wasn't ready to have that kind of conversation yet, so I decided that it was best to be wise. I wanted to make sure that whatever I'm risking my marriage for is better than my marriage. My marriage is already sham, and to be honest, I've wanted out of this marriage for months. I want to divorce Simon and go back to my town, because the only thing he has given me is a job and a roof over my head. Those are the only reasonable things he has given me all through the marriage. If I leave him today, there would be no difference, because I had no idea I was getting married to a very stingy man. If I had known then, I would not have made the mistake of getting married to him in the first place. Now, about the person at my workplace, I think it's also risky because I could get caught if I am not careful. Simon gave me that job through his friend who knows the owner of the fashion store. There's every possibility that he has been trying to keep an eye on me, and it would be really unfortunate if I let myself right into his trap. That would give him a reason to divorce me without a single thought, and I don't want that yet. I'm only holding on to the marriage because I want to make sure that I didn't waste the past 2 years of my life. I don't want a situation where I'll end up leaving the marriage broke. It would make me really upset if I leave the marriage without anything at the end of the day. I didn't marry a realtor agent that was about 9 years older than me just to be treated like crap. That was not in my bingo card at all. That's why I'm making sure that I calculate my every love and never fall into a trap. It would be unfortunate for me to realize that in the process of trying to outsmart Simon, I ended up putting myself and everything I've endured at risk. I would hate myself for that, and I don't want that at all. So I'm just here, guys. I'm waiting for that rich man that would finally get interested in me. I don't plan on waiting forever because my patience is very low and I don't want to waste my life away. That's it for today, guys. I'll see you all in a while. Update. Your favorite gold digger is back again, just like you all like to address me in the comments section. Many people think I'm this big gold digger with no brain at all. Well, I don't actually blame the people calling me that because it was I myself that called myself a gold digger in the first place. I'm now getting called several names. It's not like I never expected it, but wow, people can be extremely rude when they want to. It's the way they don't even care about my feelings or how I ended up feeling at the end of the day. Well, I guess my feelings aren't valid as long as I'm a gold digger, lol. Before moving on, I just want to say that the comments have been cracking me up quite literally. It's been insane. So, life with Simon has been the same and there's been no change at all. I knew that I'd be a fool to think that a man as smart as him would suddenly try to act all sweet and stuff. I think the past few days have revealed to me that Simon is actually a very intelligent man. I think he is aware that he married a woman that only looked at him twice because of his job and money. He knows that. And I guess that's one of the reasons he's making sure that we don't have a child till we're A or two last 2 more years. If not for my desperation back then, I would have never actually married him because I didn't know that I was signing up for this. I expected more from him, and I thought that I'd caught a big fish, lol. So Simon traveled just 2 days ago for one of his job trips. He's a realtor agent, so he naturally has to travel to do his work. Before, I used to get white angry that he always traveled and left me at home. Before we got married, I asked him if his job required him to travel a lot, and he denied it. In fact, he told me that he wouldn't even travel up to 10 times a year. He played me in that regard because now I know that he travels up to 10 times a month, and I don't get why he never told me that ahead of time. But when he traveled this time, I was actually very happy because I'd been hoping he'd travel and just leave me at home. When he left, Anne had a glass of champagne to celebrate, because anytime he was at the house, I literally had to trample on eggshells and act like a whole different person because I didn't want to raise any suspicions. My brothers came to LA last week, and they've been asking to see me, but I kept telling them that I was not in town. The main reason I did that was because I didn't want them to see Simon. Not because I want them to hate him, but because I know Simon doesn't care for any of them. He made that clear even before we got married. He clearly told me that he feels like my brothers are lazy and that they just spend all their time at the camping site doing nothing serious. I didn't say anything to him because I knew that he had no clue what kind of work my brothers have done just to survive. It's easy for a person like him with so much money to think that life is just all about traveling as a realtor agent. My brothers were the ones taking care of me for a very long time, even though they didn't attend college too. Our parents didn't have money to send us to college, so we just lived life like that. At some point in our lives, we were the ones that began to provide for our parents. Do I hold any grudges? Not at all, because I know that they tried the best to provide for us. It's just that life isn't easy for everybody. I know that Simon would not hesitate to say something that would bring my brothers down mentally, and that's why I think it's best that they avoid each other. I didn't want Simon anywhere near my brothers, and I don't want my brothers anywhere near Simon. I feel like life would be extremely easier if we just followed this protocol. So, I met up with my brothers today, and we talked a lot. I asked why they were in LA, and they just told me that it was for some work. I was happy to know that my brothers were doing well for themselves. They had to live today, so our conversations were quite short. They picked up on my mood, even though I tried to smile all through. I just lied and told them I was having period cramps. They knew nothing about that, so they believed me. When I got back home, I decided that it was best to update you all first before I made my next move. One of my brother's friends in LA invited me to his house party, and I actually plan on going. What do you guys think? I know this is the perfect opportunity to meet people and do. I'm really interested in grabbing the opportunity. I'm not going to update fast, like I've been going, because I think it's best to just update you all at once. I'll update as soon as I can, but it's not going to be as fast as the rest. Update. I cheated on my husband, guys, and now I think I might be pregnant. Yes, you all read that right. Where do I even start from, and how do I begin to explain my predicament to you guys? It's been hectic and quite confusing, especially for me. I thought things would be easier and I would not take myself by surprise since I'm the one actually planning everything and it's not a freestyle. But I think I underestimated how fast things could change in the blink of an eye. It's actually very crazy and I can't wait to tell you all my predicament right now. So I went to the party I was invited to, just like I told you guys. I thought it would be the perfect opportunity to do something crazy, so I didn't think twice before doing what I wanted to do. The party was not what I expected at all. I thought it was going to be a wild house party with several drinks and an unhealthy amount of snacks. Well, it wasn't that way at all, and it really surprised me. I think one of the reasons I was so gasped up for that party, because it was one of my brother's friends that invited me, and I knew him from our town before. He was quite wild and very dramatic, so I expected his party to get that way, but unfortunately for me, that was not the case at all. I think it's fair to say that I got the shock of my life when I realized that his part was quite classy and sophisticated. I was not impressed at all, because I wasn't really interested in a party that didn't have crazy drinks and an enormous amount of food. I wanted to let loose and just travel back in time to the days when I used to party with my brothers in our town. It was really fun, and I missed those parties. Since I came to LA, there were no more parties like that I could attend because Simon was like a watchdog that fell from the sky just to keep an eye on me. Anyways, I still wanted to have fun at the party, so I didn't let anything make me stop. I didn't see the person that invited me for some time, so I just decided to look around and take a look at things for myself. That was just what I wanted to do at the beginning. But something stalking happened, and I actually met a guy that looked like money. When I tell you all he looked like money, I'm not exaggerating. His suit and everything he wore screamed money. But I didn't quite understand why a guy like that would want to wear a suit to a house party. I mean, who wants to wear a suit to a house party? Is that even normal at all? Well, I guess it is because he was not the only one I spotted in a suit. They all looked like people who knew what they were doing with their lives. The music was very slow, and I think it was opera music that was playing in the background. It was nothing extra like that kind of music that just makes your eardrum throb. It was at that moment that I figured out that I was probably at a party for rich men. I became curious because I wanted to ask the person that invited me how he knew so many rich people. When I finally saw him and I asked him the question that had been eating me up, he just told me that he had gotten a job that pays well after he moved to LA, and that's how he got to buy a house. He also told me that most of the people present were his colleagues at work. That was what finally put me at ease because I'd been worried that he was running some kind of scam, lol. The guy I told you all about didn't interact with other people much. He just stood at one place, sipping champagne and looking at some of the artworks on the wall. I approached and engaged him in a conversation. I was very nervous at first because I didn't want to end up embarrassing myself in front of so many people. That's why I initially tried to see if I could just start a random conversation without causing commotion. It actually worked, and then we started talking. At first, I started flirting with him, then pretended like it was the fault of the wine I had in hand. We spoke for a long time, and at some point we exchanged contacts. I took a lot of wine and the little alcohol available because I needed that drunk courage. It had been a long while since I tried doing what I had been doing at the party, so I was very anxious at first. At the end of the day, we left the party together. My brother's friend actually pulled me to the side to ask me why I was going out of the party room with a guy. He was aware of the fact that I am married, so he wanted to know what I was thinking. I just told him that it was nothing serious, and that I'd speak to him another time. I could tell that he was really worried, and he offered to call my brothers, but I refused. He left me alone after that, and then I went back to meet the guy. We went to a hotel that night, and we spent the night together. I didn't expect to feel the level of guilt I felt the next morning. I guess I'm human after all, and I had to feel some type of way. We did use protection that night, and I was sure of it because I saw it in the bin. Me and that guy saw each other very frequently after that, and we hooked up a lot. I don't want to call his name for personal reasons. He gave me gifts and even offered to find a job for me. At that point, he didn't even know I was married at all. Simon seemed to spend forever on his trip, so I used that opportunity to hang out with the guy I met at the party. There were some times when he wouldn't use protection, but I didn't think that if suddenly just got pregnant. I always imagined that people had to actually put in effort and try before getting pregnant. I just realized that's not true and that every woman has a different body type. I suspect that I might be pregnant because I didn't see my monthly flow this month. Simon just got back yesterday, and I'm really scared. I don't know what to do at all because this isn't in my bingo card. What do I say to Simon and what do I say to the guy I'm pregnant for? Would he believe that the baby I'm carrying is his when he finds out that I'm married? Help me, guys. I haven't taken a pregnancy test yet, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm still scared. I haven't missed my menstrual flow like this ever before, and it makes sense that I'm pregnant. That's the only reasonable explanation. I think I'm really done for at this point. Update. Well, my fears have proven to be reality, and I am now left with nothing. Even after all the things I tried to do to make sure that I didn't end up like I ended up now, I still got what many people think I deserved. I took the pregnancy test because I was actually very scared, and I wanted to know the truth as soon as possible. The tests revealed that I was pregnant. I still went to the hospital to check, and I was proved to be pregnant. I had to go back home and think of what to do. I decided to go tell my affair partner first. He was surprised that I was pregnant, and he was also surprised that I was married. He accused me of trying to trap him with another woman's pregnancy, and then he broke things off with me. Yes, he literally told me it was over and that he never wanted to see me again. I almost fainted and gave up, but I had to tell myself that I couldn't just let something like that weigh me down. I left his place after getting rejected. He didn't even listen to me after I begged him continuously. Janyar just sent me away just like that, and I had no choice than to leave. I went home and I gave Simon the pregnancy test results. I told him I was pregnant, and then he laughed straight into my face. He told me there was no way that was possible, and I asked him how he could be so sure. I consistently told him that I was pregnant, and yet he told me I had to be lying or he was not the father. I didn't even try to back down. I refused to back down and let him win. I challenged him and asked him to prove why he was not the father when I was married to him, and we slept together like couples did. He told me he always used protection, and I asked him why that gave him so much assurance when protection was not 100% reliable sometimes, and there was a possibility of the protection tearing up. I called him a simp for thinking he could bully me into rejecting a pregnancy that was his. I said he had to be stupid if he thought he could deny the pregnancy. I called him all sorts of names, and I said he wasn't even man enough to accept his own child, and that he was scared of taking responsibility. That was the first time I raised my voice at him, and it was initially because I had a lot of pent-up anger and wanted to vent. I thought those harsh words would soften him up and make him accept the pregnancy. But instead, I was shocked by his reply. He told me that the pregnancy couldn't be his because he had gotten a vasectomy long ago, and that he did so because he didn't want me to come up with stories that were fake. I was very surprised, and it was at that moment that I realized that I had been caught red-handed, and there was really no going back. I should have pinned the pregnancy on him when I knew just how smart he was. I asked him why he always used protection when he knew he had a vasectomy, and then he told me he wanted to have 2 backups. That same day, he sent me out of the house, and I was served with divorce papers 2 weeks later. I signed it without a second thought because I knew that there was no way I could drag it out. The divorce can only be finalized after I give birth, and he's proven to not be the father. His parental rights would be revoked, and he will not need to pay for child support. That's just how smart Simon is. Update. I can't believe it's almost been a year already. Since I was busy pregnant, I didn't have a lot of time to process things. I gave birth 2 months ago to a baby girl, and the DNA tests were conducted. He was proven to not be the father, and his parental rights were revoked. He doesn't owe me child support anymore. Even after everything I did, I was still left with nothing in the long run. I tried looking for my affair partner again, but he has made it impossible to reach him. I'm now a broke single mother with 2 mouths to feed. Karma did hit me hard, and Simon left me with nothing. The only money I have now is the money from the savings I got from the fashion store. I got fired, by the way. Simon made sure he didn't let me go just like that. I guess the gold digger is now left with no gold to dig. I feel like I got what was coming for me. There's no way I can pin this on another person, even though I hold some grudges. You win some and you lose some.